Hi, my name is Florina Sizane. I'm a registered clinical psychologist practicing in Klerksdorp, and I'm also a university lecturer. So I'm going to talk about anxiety, especially in the midst of COVID-19, because now we know that it's business unusual. Things took another turn, and it's bringing a lot of anxiety. And also, according to WHO, it is an emerging of an international concern, because now this is a global outbreak, meaning that now the entire world is affected. It's either you're affected or you are infected. And most of the time now, and when we're speaking about anxiety, it means that now it's bringing a lot of panic. And remember, this is an unknown disease, is an unknown outbreak, and most of us are panicking, and we have to take precautions, and it also triggers anxiety, because it kind of like destabilizes our mental state. And it's a crisis, and the crisis generates stress, and it impacts on our mental health. And there are people who have been living with anxiety. It's chronic anxiety, and you'll find out that now, especially in times like this, then now they are getting more anxious. Others, it's for the first time, they don't know how they are feeling, they don't know what they are feeling. And it's kind of like, because now this is a pandemic, it's a life-threatening disease, and when something is life-threatening, it evokes those anxious feelings. You stressed. Anxiety is kind of like, is an emotional state, and is a chronic worry. It's normal. It's a normal emotion where you feel anxious. The problem is when now it's kind of like it's overwhelming you. You're feeling disempowered, and there's that a chronic worry, the constant worry. Like most of the time now, it's kind of like occupying a larger part of your thinking. And most of the time when you're feeling like that, pay attention in what you're feeling, how you are feeling it, because it's very important to be in contact with your emotions. And remember, I've said it's a normal emotion, but now it's when like it impairs your functioning, like your personal functioning. Most of the time, things that you used to do, you cannot do them now like before, and it's impacting on your social functioning. There is that withdrawal. So these are the kinds of symptoms that you'll experience. And remember, we are unique beings, and we experience symptoms differently. And most of the time, you'll find that now people are narrating what they are feeling in different ways, because we are diverse. We are also unique people, and that is why now when we experience them, and we tell our stories differently, because now all of a sudden you'll feel that now it's kind of like something is not normal, like your way of living has changed. And you'll also find that now sometimes, especially when it comes to women, it impacts more, because women, most of the time, they are playing that multifaceted roles. They are caregivers, and you'll find that now they are also part of those people who are, that we call them the frontline health workers. And it cuts across gender. And sometimes there's a genetic disposition where maybe you've inherited it, like there's a family history. You're prone to stress. You're prone to being anxious, and you'll find that sometimes you've taken that from your family. Sometimes it's because of environmental factors, like for instance now we are faced with a pandemic. Now it becomes like an environmental factor that is triggering you, even if there's a genetic disposition. But if there's nothing that is disturbing you, you can lead a normal life. And other people, in terms of symptomology, you'll find that now they've got those chest pains. It's like a piercing chest pain. It doesn't go away. Sometimes it goes. Sometimes it's kind of like it gets better. And you'll find that other people will self-medicate and they don't know what is wrong with them, and they cannot even explain it to the other person. It kind of like it steals your peace, it steals your joy, and there is that pounding heartbeat. Your heart is beating very fast. It's faster than normal, and you'll find that other people even have sweating palms, and it's like you also have like pins and needles. As I've said, sometimes you won't experience all the symptoms at once. Sometimes it will be that one symptom that is severe. Other people will have many symptoms, and there is that persistent tightness sometimes on your shoulders, your chest. Other people will even, we call them somatic symptoms, where it's like you are physically ill. There is that restlessness inside. It's like you're wrestling with something emotionally, and it even impairs your sleeping pattern. You can't sleep properly, and you kind of like now you're worrying about worrying, because now you don't know what is wrong with you. Other people can even have dizzy spells. They come and go. Others, they feel like it's kind of like a heart attack, and it's not really a heart attack, it's panic symptoms. That is why others now, they'll go to the hospital, maybe at home or at work. They can even call an ambulance. It's like now you're having a heart attack. And sometimes clients or patients, they get frustrated because now they'll go to the doctor or they go to the hospital and they run all the tests, and it's like there's nothing, and the doctor will say there's nothing wrong with you. And whereas you're feeling these symptoms, that's where most of the time now they'll also refer to us at like they refer at our private practices, or sometimes they'll refer to the clinic, because now it's something emotional. It's something that is not physical, but it has a physical manifestation. That is why now you'll also experience those headaches. They come and go, and it's like when you're experiencing anxiety, it's like you kind of like you want to figure everything at once. You kind of like you're losing control, and other people will say it's like I'm feeling crazy, because now it's all in the mind. And remember, but it impairs your, as I've said, it impairs your personal functioning. Other people can even withdraw socially, meaning that now there are even some behavioral symptoms there, where now you're starting to avoid people. And if you are working, it also impairs your occupational functioning, because you cannot concentrate. There's no optimal functioning, and your concentration now is poor. Remember, there's also now sleeplessness, because it can even sometimes come at night, in terms of that pounding heart, where you're waking up. Other people will be like, when they describe that, it's like you're experiencing nightmares, because now even blood is not even flowing properly. All your muscles are tense, and you can even experience body aches. And most of the time you kind of like you feel like I'm alone in this, and you don't know how do I explain this to other people. And with students, there will also be it impairs their academic functioning, because now most of the time they cannot concentrate, and it can even bring some slight tremors where you shivering, you writing, and you can't even write properly. You'll find that now maybe as a student, even your writing now is illegible. You've prepared yourself, or others maybe they have to give a speech, all of a sudden it's kind of like you have those blackouts, because it also impairs now your memory. And that is why I'm saying that now it's bringing that instability, that homeostasis. Now there's no balance, because it brings chemical imbalance, because now it's something that is now also tampering with the way you are thinking. And most of the time you've got negative thoughts. You start like not feeling good about yourself, because you're like, there's something not right with me. And especially now in the midst of COVID, where now you'll find that now there's a lot of anxiety. Sometimes you diagnose and there's a lot of stigmatization can also trigger anxiety, because now you're scared to meet people are scared of you, they are also anxious. And that is where sometimes we also have to be sensitive when we're dealing with other people, not even referring to them as cases. They are human beings, especially now in the midst of this pandemic. We'll say that now this is a COVID case, a person is kind of like diseased. So it's very important, especially now when it comes to dealing with people who have been diagnosed. Remember, this is a new pandemic. Research is ongoing and it's bringing a lot of anxiety. That is why it's also vital that now we don't stigmatize people, because we label them, we call them cases. And these are human beings. These are fellow human beings. We also need to extend that care in order to alleviate their anxiety symptoms, because now, remember, we always taking precautions. They are also scared that they will infect you. Other families are affected, and the levels of anxiety is very high, and especially when you're waiting for the test results. And there are other things in life that has been going on. Remember, the pandemic has just added on our plates, because we are human beings. We're going through a lot. Most of the time now, we're feeling anxious, and we kind of like regulate, because anxiety also brings emotional dysregulation, that instability in our minds. So that is why now we also need to be sensitive, because even people who have been diagnosed with COVID-19, they will recover, they will restore, and life will still continue. They will resume their normal life. And unfortunately, other people have lost their loved ones, others it's colleagues, others it's parents, sisters. And when they are going through that, there's a lot of anxiety. Remember, they also need to be even very careful the way they are dealing with the corpse, even the way now they have to organize the funeral. So it's bringing in a lot of anxiety, because in the midst of that, it's kind of like we need to be very careful. And anxiety levels now, it's more. There's that sleeplessness, and even appetite. It can even affect your appetite, because now you're not eating well. And other people, it's severe, because now it's chronic anxiety. There are people who are living with anxiety, and most of the time they'll come for talk therapy, and sometimes it's dual treatment. If it's severe, we will also refer you now to a psychiatrist or your GP to get medication. Remember, you are not crazy. It's the emotional state, especially when you are going through something. That is why now you will feel like that. And it's very important to be aware of your emotions, your self-awareness, being in tune with your emotions, that now this is how I am feeling. And even if you've contracted the disease, it's not like you also have to blame yourself that there's something wrong with me. I've done something wrong. Sometimes you did take precautions. There are people who are getting infected with precautions. That is why also we are emphasizing that take precautions. Those health protocols are very important. So don't blame yourself a lot, because this can happen to anyone, and that is why now most of the time now you will feel very anxious. It's also very important now, where now there are also coping skills. I'll also now also talk about coping skills, because in the midst of all of this, don't lose your head. Don't despair. It is not the end, because remember, the mind can kind of like feel like this is the end of me. There are those catastrophic thoughts where now you are thinking in extremes, like it's like everything is worse. There's that black and white thinking that now it's either this or that. And there's also overgeneralization, where now you think that now it means my life will never be restored. It means that now I'll never be okay. So it's also very important that now to have that constructive distractions, where now you are distracting yourself with things that are positive in your life, where you're doing things that you love, so that you even forget. Because what happens with anxiety, it's like it's putting you on this chair where it's like you feel like it's taking you somewhere, but you are at the same place. What happens now is bringing now illness. You're too anxious, and all of a sudden now you're feeling sick. Other people can even have stomach cramps. Others, it will even be a runny tummy. Others, it's constipation. It's even now affecting even your metabolism, because now it's kind of like tampering with the entire system. Others, they can even be a cellular change, when now there is even your skin, the pigmentation, you start now even sometimes even having pimples, because it can even bring that cellular change. So that is why it's very important that now I need to restore, and especially now minimize what you are taking in, especially during this pandemic. It's normal, because we are panicking, we're watching a lot of news, we are on our Googles, we are on our phones, newspapers. So it's also very important that now minimize that, because there's also now what we call information overload that can overwhelm you, and especially at night. Minimize that, as long as you know that now I need to take precautions, because this is a pandemic, but at the same time, it must not take over your life, because immediately it's taking over, it means that is what now you are thinking about day and night. Other people can even dream about it. I remember when it started, there was a time when I was like kind of like literally like 24 hours watching news, until there was a time when I was like even kind of like having some dreams. I wake up, I'm like, no, I think I need to minimize this, because it was new. I was also panicking about my safety, my children's safety, other people's safety. So it's very important that now minimize that, get information, but that let it not be like the larger part of what you are doing. Take some walks. If you like reading, read. Watch other things, sometimes even watch comedies, because what that does now, it will emotionally regulate you. It's kind of like called emotional regulation, because we also need to laugh in the midst of that. Sometimes laughing at ourselves, it brings that stability, and even the importance of social support. Our social support system is very important. Sometimes even people who are staying with you, because sometimes you're feeling powerless, you feel like I cannot do anything. People who are living with you, if they see that now there's something not right, be the emotional support of that person. Others, it's quarantine. It brings a lot of anxiety. I'm alone. self-isolation also, it also impacts on your mental well-being, your emotional well-being, because now I feel alone. That is why we have to be there for each other. Social networks as you're quarantining, reaching out, and also not forgetting that person, like, what do you need? Sometimes they even need material stuff, food. What is it that we can bring them? Is there a book that they can read? Maybe they need their laptops, they need their phones, sometimes even buying them data. That little thing that you can do, it counts. And especially when a person is going through that, when you feel that now I'm being loved, I'm not being rejected, I'm not being labeled, then people can recover better, because the more they are feeling anxious, it's also impacting on their immune system. And then they are taking time to recover because they are scared. And it's normal to be scared because it's something that you've never experienced before. Sometimes you even watching stats, you see that now people are dying. And it's not everybody who's dying. And we also have to support those people, as I've said, those who've lost their loved ones. And it's also important during that time, pull in your inner resources where you like, I once went through something in life, maybe something worse than this. Even this too shall pass. I need to self-care, and I need to embrace the support that I'm getting, because sometimes we tend to be too independent, that I'm used to do things on my own. But now for that, like for those anxiety symptoms to be alleviated, just embrace whatever help that you are getting, and just take it as if like, it's kind of like that one tree. One author once said, anxiety is kind of like that one tree in a forest. But what you need to do, take a step back and have a look at that whole forest. That now, it is just this small part of my pie. This is what I'm going through. And other people, they relapse, especially when it's chronic anxiety. They'll go back and know when you kind of like on the yellow line that now things are not going well, I need help. So it's very important that now I just need to know myself, so that I don't go on the red. On the red is when now you're feeling powerless. I must be on my green, where things now are back to normal. Remember that now you don't have to face the battle alone. And you are not the only one. It's one of the most diagnosed disorders. And sometimes it's underdiagnosed because, as I've said, people are presenting with symptoms differently. And they are telling their stories differently. And even our cultural backgrounds, where sometimes other people, they think that now I've been bewitched. Others will even go to other forms of their support. They'll consult their traditional healers. There's nothing wrong with that. And they will tell you that I've tried this and that. Others are self-medicating. But remember, to self-medicate, sometimes you end up now misusing medication. You end up being diagnosed. And it's very important that now you go for help. Go to the clinic. Speak about it. Just remember that you are not alone, and you are not the first person to be feeling like that. Maybe you don't know that what is it that I've been feeling. Other people will even tell you that now, I feel like it's hot here. It's like my heart, it's sore. Remember, it's manifesting itself also physically. That now my heart is sore. It's like I can open it up, but I don't know what it is. All of a sudden, I'm feeling like peace is gone. That's what it does, especially now when it's severe. Other people, they experience it in a mild form. It could be mild symptoms, and they can go away on their own. Other people, they need help. When now they come to us, as I've said, as psychologists, and we also refer them. And also relaxation is very important. Learn to relax. Just create your own ritual in terms of coping. Others will take even a long bath. Put whatever you feel that maybe when I've put in that bath, that now I'm feeling good, and play soft music, because especially when you're playing this music where it's kind of like tampering with the heartbeat, that music that is too loud, it also now triggers anxiety. It gets worse. So it's very important that now to be mindful of what you are feeding your mind, because sometimes you're feeding your mind a lot of negative things. So self-care is very important. Even walking outside, I know now it's very cold, but it's also very important to get that sunshine D, that now don't sit for long. You can even maybe put your sunscreen, or don't face the sun directly, but at least get that sunlight, because what it does now, it will also now regulate your emotions. Other people run, they do some physical exercises, and then there's what is called now that happy hormone, where now you are going to feel happy. And even your sleeping pattern, sleep at the same time. Don't even watch those movies that are gonna bring fear or things that are going to bring pain. What you do, tap in that inner resource. Think of something that will make you happy, even if you kind of like something that is imaginary in your mind. Create that self space for yourself, and remember, there is help. You are not alone. Don't suffer alone. That maybe you didn't know what it was. It is called anxiety. So I hope that now you will go for help if you feel that now my symptoms are severe, or maybe just at home, or maybe you can even now educate other people. You can even read more about anxiety. I hope you've taken something with you, you've learned something, you'll be able to use it, or you'll be able to help other people. Thank you for watching.